Weird science is the revolution.
Hello, all you weirdos. Jim here, and this isn't breaking news, but I'll hit this. Get this. Dan Slott's kind of a jerk who doesn't get things. Yes, Dan Slott, known for his Spider-Man run, among other things, including blocking people on Twitter/X. He just keeps putting his foot in his big mouth and says weird stuff and argues about things that then he twists and turns the argument against himself, and then it doesn't make sense, and then he's going on. It's just wacky. But what he has been talking about recently, and what I've seen Nick Lowe talk about, and all the Spider Office people are saying, there is a kind of elephant in the room. There's kind of a threat to their status quo, and it is the Ultimate Spider-Man book. The Ultimate Spider-Man book shows up. Jonathan Hickman gives fans what they've been asking for years, and it is selling well. And what they've been asking for years is obviously Peter and MJ being together and having a family. I know a ton of people who weren't going to get into that Ultimate Universe at all until the minute that they found out that, oh my God, you got to read Ultimate Spider-Man. It's Peter and MJ, and they have a family. And then people ran to it, and they've been buying it, and it's selling really, really well. Well, since that has happened, Dan Slott seems to be on a weird offensive, and he seems to be offended by the idea that people are buying Ultimate Spider-Man and wants to then defend Amazing Spider-Man against it, but using sales, but Ultimate Spider-Man's selling great, but then saying that Spider-Man sells but doesn't always sell, but then says it does. He's all over the place, but really what he's trying to say, and what I get from what is a bit of a conversation that I ended up seeing posted on Twitter, is the idea that, listen, Amazing Spider-Man continues to sell, and so stuff it. You can, take it or leave it. And the thing is, a lot of people that I know are leaving it and going over to Ultimate Spider-Man. It's fun and dandy to say, take it or leave it, when there's no real alternative. When there is an alternative and you say, take it or leave it, a lot of people are leaving it. But Amazing Spider-Man still continues to sell. Just this week, it was announced that Zeb Wells will be off of the book. And a lot of people were very happy about that. A lot of people who are still buying Amazing Spider-Man. You know why? It's because they are loyal fans and love the character of Spider-Man. And most of the fans know that these writers aren't going to be on forever, whether or not, and I've talked to a lot of people that are buying because of a continuous run. They're buying this Amazing Spider-Man run by Zeb Wells and haven't read an issue in over a year. They bag and board it, and they have a continuous run. Some saying they'll never, ever read it, but a lot of fans are reading it because some of the things that have gone through this run will end up coming up later, and they want to be in the know. But even so, the idea that Nick Lowe in the letters page will constantly say how great things are and how nobody really wants MJ and Peter together. This is a vocal minority. It's just people on Twitter. That's not the case. And they know it, but they are hijacking fans. They're holding them for ransom with the idea of maybe, just maybe someday we'll get Peter and MJ together. But in the meantime, we know you're going to buy the book. We know because it's always sold. And not even just continuing fans. There's the whole play where they don't seem to realize, and I'm talking even Dan Slott in this whole article deal, or even Nick Lowe, whatever, is that when people jump into comics, there are a couple really big jumping on point characters that are so well known, characters that are well known outside of comics, and obviously Spider-Man's one of them. Batman would be another, and there's others as well, but Batman and Spider-Man, two of the bigger characters for that. So you're always going to have a continuous flow of new readers, and when a new reader comes in, it's going to take them a while to realize, yeah, this book stinks. They probably think that everything's great at first because it's your first book and everything's amazing, and oh my God. But eventually, even those readers go, but there's always that, flow. So when you go with the idea, and what they are pretty much saying, and what Dan Slott's saying here is such a weird kind of empty type of deal to say. Never saying that the book is good. Oh my God, you guys are mad, but this is a great run. oh my God, you're mad, but you just don't get it. Later in your life, you'll look back and see how great it is. They'll never say that. What they say is, it's selling. Hey, look, everybody, it's selling. And the idea of fans just completely giving up, that means they're giving up on Spider-Man. And I said this, during a time when a lot of DC Batman fans were a little upset, say, a Tom King run. And I said there's a lot of people out there that if they drop Batman or if they drop Spider-Man, kind of means they're dropping everything. This is their most important character. This is the thing that makes it so they read some other books. But in fact, it's Spider-Man is their big thing. And if you drop that, you're kind of dropping the thing that you love in your hobby. So they continue going. But you'll never or rarely see somebody like a Dan Slott or somebody like a Nick Lowe actually say, hey, you know why Amazing Spider-Man sells? It's because we have kick-ass loyal fans. Even in this little deal, and I'll read it in a second, where Dan Slott's explaining like, well, it's the cash cow. It's the golden goose. Amazing Spider-Man, Marvel pumps it out twice a month and they can do it because it's selling. Not once says, hey, and you know what? We really appreciate that you're buying it. The way that the tone comes out of the Spider offices, and this is what really gets under my skin, it comes off as you people are so lucky that we are giving you this Spider-Man. You're so lucky. Yeah, you say you don't like it, but we know better than you. And you should grovel at our feet, lick our toes to say, oh my God, thank you. Thank you so much for giving me this shit book, because without it, boy, I wouldn't have anything. No, what they should be doing is groveling at the fans' feet saying, oh my God, you know what? We know that at points people have been upset. Sorry, we're not giving you exactly what you want, but we're going to kind of reward your loyalty at some point and give it to them. Because where this whole thing ends up being is a lot of the main run Spider-Man office, they're discounting the idea that the Ultimate Spider-Man is selling so well because people want Peter and MJ together with the family. They seem to, oh, that's a flash in the pan. Oh, we'll see later. Oh, we'll do this. No, it's very obvious. It's so obvious that people will just run in droves. And where I really go with the idea of, in my mind, how silly this is, where they're crowing about the sales numbers. Oh my God, we're top of the line. The minute that these sales numbers go down, you know as well as I do, the only and first thing they're going to do, oh, look, Peter and MJ together. They know that this is what people want. They just keep giving you this weird play with people like Paul, or even the idea that when you had Felicia Hardy, Black Cat, and Peter together, I know it's not MJ, but I like Black Cat. I thought, okay, this is kind of, and then they ruin that. They can't even do anything. It's you could say it's the Parker luck. No, it's the Spider-Man fans' luck. And the idea that this Spider office and even a former writer like Dan Slott is just laughing at people about all of this. But here is what was posted on Twitter. I'm going to read this little bit. And I will say, Dan Slott talking about this, he's not being a jerk. He's actually being a pretty nice guy, the way he's explaining it, until there's points where it gets to me where he can't help himself to just say, something that'll like rub your face into things. But he says, the long-term health of the book currently as Amazing Spider-Man, coming out twice a month as two of Marvel's top-selling issues every month for years and years and years. And it's true. But again, every time you mention this, in my mind, if I was one of the people, higher up there at Marvel, I would say, when you say something like this, please thank the fans immediately. Say, thank you, fans, because this is what you have allowed us to do, whatever. It's been the goose that lays the golden egg twice a month. Again, that's not in a vacuum. There's people buying it. Yes, Ultimate Spider-Man is being incredibly well received and it says is, but I think he means it's setting the sales charts on fire. Yes, it is, because people really, and I'm telling you, there is 99.9% of those sales are for Peter and MJ. But when looking at the bottom line, Marvel's not about to kill that goose. And he's saying about Amazing Spider-Man, but nobody is ever going to say that putting Peter and MJ together is killing anything. That's actually making the goose stronger. That's making, 8 gooses, whatever. But he says it's not about to kill that goose, a goose that is still performing same as it ever was, month in and month out, because another title has been performing phenomenally well for half a year. So he's saying they're not going to cancel Amazing Spider-Man because, of course, they're not. But really throughout all this, and what I got from this as I continue on is it's almost like a dare. It's like a dare, like, oh, you guys love the Spider-Man so much. We know that you'll never stop buying it. But if you want to have a difference, then probably not buy it. It almost feels like a challenge. And says, no, this isn't a case of Spider-Man always sells well. Yeah, it is. Because he says, sometimes Avengers is Marvel's best performing title. What does it matter what the number, like, it's still Spider-Man then is usually second. Spider-Man's right there. And then when he says this, he's like trying to tell you, hey, listen, Spider-Man hasn't always sold well, except he just told you it did. And then he'll continue after this saying it does. But no, it's not the case of Spider-Man always sells well. That's what you're trying to say. He says sometimes it's Star Wars. And yeah, what he's doing is pointing out, and I would say the Star Wars is that Jason Aaron deal, especially that number one, I think it was in 2015, around that time that went wazoo out the deal. But yeah, that's the anomaly, whatever. But don't say, and sometimes it's X-Men, he says. That's fine. There have even been times it's been Thor and Hulk. And he's talking about Immortal Hulk, I would think, with Al Ewing especially. But even then, Spider-Man was right behind it. He says, whether you like it or not, the current run of Amazing Spider-Man has objectively been ruling the roost at Marvel for some time. Year after year, its issues that dominate. But I thought you just said that Spider-Man doesn't always sell well. Oh, I guess you're going against that now to prove some weird point. It says it's, there. Year after year, its issues have dominated Marvel's best-selling charts by a wide margin. Yes, wide in capitals. Not really true. But if you go with 2 issues a month, then yes, you could play that. Wider than any variance or incentive program could boost it because you don't need that. It's Spider-Man. And unfortunately, in quotes earlier, he said Spider-Man always sells. Like, it is the case of that. Come on, stop it. You're discounting your loyal fans that will read Amazing Spider-Man no matter what, even buy it and not read it. They'll put it in the long box. You are pretty much just discounting some of the most loyal fans in comicdom right there by saying that, it sells, but, people don't like it, but it doesn't matter because it sells. No, these people are still buying it. They're complaining. And most people are complaining because they're buying it and it sucks and they need something better beyond just getting Peter and MJ back. This run of Zeb Wells does not feel like it's the biggest book in comics right now. Whatever the sales numbers say, which they don't say anything because we can't get real sales numbers now. So all of this is, that weird sort of objective deal. But all in all, it hasn't been good. And it's a book that's fans deserve it to be good, let alone give them what they kind of been begging for years. But he says wider than any variance or incentive programs. Again, that's nonsense. It's not a seesaw. I could just imagine him on a seesaw, just sitting there by himself because he has no friends, just sitting there somehow, just like looking around. He's like Milhouse. Ultimate Spider-Man selling phenomenally well doesn't magically make Amazing Spider-Man a poor seller. Really, I'm glad that we get Economics 101 here. Nobody's saying that Ultimate Spider-Man selling phenomenally well means that Amazing Spider-Man isn't selling. What they're saying is the reason why Ultimate Spider-Man is selling so well, it's an alternative that people have gone to because they're offering what they want and having pretty much a pretty kick-ass book even beyond that. So Amazing Spider-Man is still selling what ASM has been selling, while Marvel has been incredibly happy with it. But I thought you said that it doesn't always sell. I just wonder. And then he goes on, he's talking about a particular person that says about the idea of the pro-marriage crowd, even that, the way he says it, that just, I don't know why that rubs me the wrong way, but says, they have a lot to crow about. But in the big picture, the unrivaled success of Ultimate Spider-Man has still been a sprint, while compared to the steady, successful marathon that ASM has been running for years. I just want to point out that Dan Slott has not been in a sprint in quite some time. Under the current Amazing Spider-Man editorial and creative team, just my 2 cents, take it or leave it. And he's saying about his deal, but just it does feel like in general, everything from the Spider offices, Dan Slott, all this is the idea of take it or leave it. Hey, you don't like it? Then go find. Never the idea of being grateful, thankful. The idea of please, bear with us. Eventually we'll give you what you want, whatever. It's just they seem to laugh. They seem to think, okay, well, screw these people that want that, who are still buying the book. And don't reward them. Let's just keep giving them bullshit. And again, this Zebwell run does not feel big. It doesn't feel important. It is just ridiculously bad. And I've been saying it since it first started. At first, people were kind of, telling me I was full of crap. They were saying, oh, no, even the jokey nature. Oh, no, Spider-Man's always jokey, until they realized, there's nothing here. There's nothing going on. It's really, really bad. But maybe you like it. Maybe you're out there listening. You're like, that's ridiculous. I love it. But even then, you're a loyal fan. So why aren't they even saying to you? Maybe even saying, listen, we know that pro-marriage crowd, but we'd like to thank the people who are actually, open-minded, or say, I don't know how they'd say it, and buying it, but they never do. They never seem to be in a position of thanking anybody. They want to be thanked for just shoving shit down your throat. And it gets annoying, but at least this week, we see the idea that Zeb Wells is leaving, though. I mean, how many issues can you go before you get kicked off a book? But it sells. And I guess the thing, and I'll never come on this channel like a lot of other people do, and even people in the comments saying, I would never come on, hey, everybody, stop buying this book that you love. I'd never say it. That's up to you. That's up to you. But it seems as if the only way things are going to change is if the sales go down. And while Spider-Man sells, eventually, I mean, I think it really hinges on this next creative team. If they end up having a bullcrap creative team that you could just say, oh, here we go again. These are just yes men, women, whatever it would be, that are there to just do the company line and give us bullshit. I think that you're going to see that Spider-Man doesn't always sell well. I think that that's where the bottom could fall out. You can't have too many bullcrap things in a row before there is some effect. So we'll see. So really, with that, let's wait and see who the next creative team is. It might be something that is like, oh my God, this will be great. Everybody will be excited, but that's kind of what you need. Just that excitement. I haven't seen it from people in the Amazing Spider-Man book for quite some time. So that is it. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope that if you're a loyal fan, you are kind of ticked off and you want some recognition. You want some pats on the back from Marvel, which we never really get. But with all that, thanks. Tell me what you think in the comments below, and I will talk to you all later.
Weird science is the revolution.